Hey, Bills Mafia. We know there's only one topic every day, all Bills all the time. And now Matt Beauvais and Sal Capaccio are going really deep, talking Bills all year long, because it's always game day in Buffalo.
Another dominant performance from the Buffalo Bills, this time mostly by the defense, as they win 37-3 over the Washington Commanders to move to 2-1. Welcome into the post-game show immediately after the game here. Sal Capaccio, Matt Beauvais. Matt's actually still in Washington. You're going to hear some of the plane announcements going on overhead. We don't want him to miss his flight here. Amazing you're jumping on here. I'm already back from the team charter. But
don't rub it in, man.
I know, but this is one of those deals where we want to make sure that we get everything out and talk about it as soon as possible. So let's do that, Matt. A completely dominant performance by the Bills defense today. We'll talk about the offense, but I think everything has to start with the defense.
I don't remember a game where the defense looked that good. I think back to that game against the Dolphins a couple of years ago when they pitched the shutout. I think it was 35-0 or something like that. But they did that against a backup quarterback because Tua got hurt early in the game. That was against Jacoby Brissett. I mean, this was against an offense that put up 55 points in the first 2 weeks of the season. A lot of people really like Sam Howell. I mean, one bad game is not going to make or break this guy for his entire career. Maybe this is closer to what he is than the guy who put up 55 points in 2 weeks. But yeah, no, I mean, the pass rush was unbelievable. They had 4 interceptions. They had a recovered fumble. And oh, by the way, they still don't even have Von Miller back. The rotation was just hitting on all cylinders. Leonard Floyd looks great. Greg Rousseau looks good. AJ Epinesa has a pick 6, which is just ridiculous. The interior line looks good. Ed Oliver is making an impact. Like, he's really earning the contract that he signed. So overall, just a dominant day. There were points in the game where the Commanders were able to move the ball a bit, but then the Bills made huge stops, on the 1st and goal that they had at the 5 or something. They hold them out of the end zone, and the Bills go 98 yards the other way, kick a field goal. Yep. Like, that could have been a 10-7 game if they score a touchdown there. But instead, it becomes 13-0. And then early in the second half, it was pretty obvious, like, the Bills defense came to play today.
All right, the one guy you didn't mention, I think just because you were mentioning everybody, it doesn't matter, but what a game for Terrell Bernard. I mean, Matt,
yeah,
I think this young man,
I figured I'd get his entire segment. I didn't even think that, I should have mentioned him off the top.
That's okay. But you know what? I mean, Matt, his stat line just filled up. He was sensational. Like the blitz, he had the sack. He was like shot out of a cannon. He's so fast. Mm-hmm. And then he makes an athletic interception. This is not to throw shade at Tremaine Edmonds. It's going to sound like that. Tremaine Edmonds was a freakazoid athlete. He made plays, but he didn't make splash plays. He was just a guy that, man, you put him in the middle of your defense and he could do a lot of things for you. Terrell Bernard made more splash plays in one game than we saw Tremaine Edmonds basically making seasons. And again, I'm not trying to be funny when I say that, but that's the kind of thing you needed from your middle linebacker for the last few years that Terrell Bernard came up with in big spots in this game.
Well, we always talk about splash plays, right? Matt Milano makes the splash plays. Tremaine Edmonds struggled to do it continuously. And it's not realistic to think that every game you're going to have 2 sacks, you're going to have an interception, you're going to have a fumble recovery. Like, that's just not realistic. But he was all over the place today. Now that he's getting a little bit more comfortable in the system, it's a lot. It's a lot to put on a young player. It's like, okay, you've got to now go call the defense, and you also have to perform. That's a tough thing to get acclimated to. But the last couple weeks, he looks the part. So if this is, like I said, you're not going to replicate this. But if he becomes like an above average starter, what a find for the Bills, right? Because you could have him and Milano. It makes the defense that much more intimidating, that much more, I guess, dangerous, quite frankly.
He did this without Milano having a big game. Milano had like 5 tackles. Matt Milano's a fantastic linebacker, but he wasn't a big impact in this game. Terrell Bernard, let me read you his stat line, okay? He had 2 sacks, an interception, a fumble recovery, 2 quarterback hurries, and a pass breakup. He had 7 total tackles. I think, and I don't know this for sure, I have to go back and look at, maybe PR tweeted this out or not. I think he's the first player in Bills history to have 2 sacks, an interception, and a fumble recovery in the same game. That's the kind of game he had. And it comes as his 3rd start at the position, his 4th start overall. And can I also say that, this is also vindication so far. I mean, it's been 2 games. I think he played really well last week too. it's kind of vindication and validation for the organization and Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott for a lot of people who are slinging arrows at them for saying, how could you, even if you let Tremaine Edmonds walk, how could you go with this undersized middle linebacker who this was, Matt, we said this is maybe the number one concern, right?
Yeah.
Heading into the season. I always thought that Terrell Bernard would be a pretty good player. He just needed more reps. But what you said is right. Like, even like the way he did today was beyond what my expectations would be.
Oh, yeah. It was beyond anybody's expectation. I mean, he's going to win AFC off Defensive Player of the Week this week. There's no questions. His numbers are out of this world impressive. So, yeah, no, this was the biggest question by far going into the season. It is still a question because now you need to see a bigger sample size, but so far, so good. You know what I mean? You really like what you've seen, and it's because he is so athletic. He is so rangy. He gets around quickly, and he has high-end athletic ability where he can make that play, where he catches it with his fingertips. You know, it's a different play when Tremaine Edmonds is there because Terrell Bernard has to jump up and make the catch. Tremaine Edmonds could have basically just stood up and tried to make the catch because he's so much bigger than him. But no, I mean, I almost think that there are times when he might better fit the Bills defense than Edmonds. And that's not to suggest that he's a better player than Edmonds. Tremaine Edmonds is a really good player, and Tremaine Edmonds just got paid a ton of money because he's a really good player. And I bet if the Bills could have kept him, they would have tried. But it makes you wonder, maybe there were some areas that Edmonds did not like really thrive in that Bernard might be a little bit better in. There are definitely areas where Edmonds was the better, more consistent player, but he also played 5 years as a starter. You know what I mean? Like, Bernard's going to grow with the position, and he's kind of protected in a little bit because he gets to play alongside an absolute freak in Matt Milano. And it feels like they really play off of each other pretty well. So yeah, so far, so good. Not even so far, so good. So far, really, really impressive for Bernard.
And of course, he plays in front of a secondary that's also playing well and played another nice game on Sunday, beyond a nice game. I mean, a couple more interceptions for the linebackers. Terrell Bernard had an interception. Well, I guess a linebacker, 2 interceptions for Bernard now, 2 interceptions for Milano. Then you had the pick 6 from AJ Benessa. But how about Micah Hyde and Tre'Davious White getting in on the act? That was great to see as well for the Buffalo Bills. Everybody was coming to the party for the Buffalo Bills. 9 sacks, 5 takeaways, 4 interceptions by 4 different players, and a defensive touchdown.
Yeah, Tre'Davious White was the one that kind of flashed to me because that was a big-time play. The way he jumped that route and he got in front of the wide receiver and made the catch, like that looked like the Trey of old. And I think that's going to kind of build his confidence even more. You know, Sean McDermott has said in the last couple of weeks, we're seeing flashes of the old Tre'Davious White. But I think for the player yourself, you need to be validated by a big play. And that can kind of build the momentum and kind of just get that confidence even higher. And I think Trey, now after this play, will have that confidence going up against a matchup where you're going to play some absolutely unbelievable wide receivers. Same thing. Micah Hyde makes an awesome play on that. He said he was mad that he slipped because he thought he could have taken it to the house. But overall, you know, to have both of those guys get involved, I mean, across the board, sure, they had a couple deep shots, like Christian Benford got beat on the deep one from, I think that was Curtis Samuel who caught the deep one. It looks like he was just a little bit slow to get off the line, didn't have any contact, and then was just kind of playing catch up, and Samuel's a burner, so he got him there. But yeah, overall, I thought the secondary had a really strong day. Not even a strong day, a great day.
The defense played sensational. Leonard Floyd doing exactly what he was signed to do for the Buffalo Bills. He came up big as well. Kingsley Jonathan got into the act a little bit later in the game. He looked good out there. They did have Poona Ford inactive. I would say this, Matt, before we wrap up this segment on the defense. When the inactives came out and Poona Ford was inactive, there was a reaction of, well, what's going on? Poona Ford, he's not that good. You signed. Look, I mean, everybody's healthy right now. It's a good thing. You have to make decisions every week. And Kingsley Jonathan, they wanted more of a pass rush. They wanted to move Greg Rousseau a little bit inside in this game to get some length. So somebody's got to be the odd man out. I would say to fans, don't look at it as why is that guy inactive? What's he doing wrong? Look at it as, why is the other guy active? He must be doing something right. And they have a bunch of options.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, though, because I was surprised when I saw that Poona Ford was not going to play in this game. But I guess I shouldn't have been, because they love Ed Oliver, they love Daquan Jones, and they love Jordan Phillips, and they're all difference makers.
Well, let
when
me
they're
stop
on the
you
field.
too. Let me ask you. Let me say this too. That I asked. It's really Jonathan for Ford, and Jonathan's in defensive end. I asked Kingsley Jonathan, when did you know you were going to be up? He said when Leonard Floyd was hobbling around earlier in the week. So it appears to me that the game plan was, hey, we're going to use Kingsley. We have then We have Greg Rousseau to go inside if we can. So that's how they practiced all week. So to me, it just became a numbers thing where that's how they planned it throughout the week, and they weren't going to change once they knew Leonard Floyd was going to be completely fine.
Yeah, but isn't there something to be said that Settle was active and Ford wasn't? Just because I know the reasoning of why you're activating Kingsley Jonathan, but I know they're not the exact same player. But
if
I would
Tim
think
Settle
that
was inactive, wouldn't there be the same reaction from Bills fans? Why is Tim Settle inactive? What's going on? You just paid this guy again.
No, I don't think so. I think Poona Ford probably has. I think Poona Ford has more name recognition among the fan base, and I think probably a bigger sample size over the course of his career. That would surprise people a little bit more. Like I think Poona Ford. It's not
especially going back to Washington with Tim Settle. I think
that's
Tim
a good
Settle.
Point. That's a good point about Tim Settle. That's a good point about Tim Settle.
Now, either way, my point is here's the bottom line. I don't think it's an indictment on Poona Ford. He was inactive. I think Bills just have a lot of options there, and they're going to have to make decisions, and that's what happened in this game. All right, let's talk about the offense. Josh Allen, not spectacular numbers again, decent numbers, but the Bills get the job done on offense. They have a balanced run and pass attack. Allen throws for a touchdown. He throws an interception, one of those ones that he threw deep. It wasn't a big deal, from a standpoint of trying to take too much of a chance. It was a third down. He tried to go deep to Gabe Davis. And actually, was it a third down or fourth down? I don't even remember.
It was third and 20. It was third and 20.
That's what it was. Third and 20. Thank you very much. So, but not a bad day from Josh Allen. Made some throws. But you know what? They scored 37 points, 30 on offense, with Josh Allen having a pretty pedestrian day, Matt.
Sure, but you also had 4. Well, I guess if you're not counting the pick 6, you had 3 interceptions and a fumble where you started with some really favorable field position. I think this was an okay day for the offense. I don't think it was good. Yep. I don't think it was bad. I think it was just somewhere in the middle. I thought Josh Allen made some spectacular plays. I thought Josh Allen made a couple head-scratching plays. They had a couple drops mixed in there that I think would have helped them. There were some mysterious penalties. The Dalton Kincaid tripping penalty kind of halted a drive that they looked like they had some momentum on. Gabe Davis had one that was a little low. We probably should have caught it, though, that halted another drive. It felt like early on they were playing from some really unfavorable down and distance. There was like 3 possessions in a row where they were calling draw plays on 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 11 on every play. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? So Josh bailed them out of some of those early. I mean, he had the incredible play where he rolls to his right and hits Diggs like 30 yards down the field early on like a 3rd and 10 or a 3rd and 9, first possession of the game. And you shouldn't need your quarterback to do the spectacular routinely, but that's why Josh Allen is so good, because he can occasionally do the spectacular. I think that offensively they settled down a little bit after, those first couple drives, and I think they found their rhythm, and penalties hurt them. So I don't know if I would say it's a step in the right direction for the offense, but I also don't think it's a step backwards. I think it's just kind of, okay, you had an okay game.
They made some money plays when they needed to. They were the good news is they were 9 for 15 on third down, which is really good. And they were perfect 2 for 2 on goal to go. But here is the concerning part. Once again, you just mentioned it. That's right. You're 100% right. They were in bad down and distance. Here's why. I did the numbers on this on the flight home. Matt, not counting the final drive where they had kneel downs, the Bills had, get this, 17 2nd and 8 or longers. 17 times they were in 2nd and 8 or longer.
And when you do that, you make your quarter. That's amazing for all the wrong reasons. And if you're going to say that you want Josh Allen to make smarter decisions and you want him to protect the football, you can't put him in those positions as an offense. You need to put them in favorable positions. So it's kind of like you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't be mad if Josh Allen is making these risks and taking shots down the field. He's going to have to, because he's facing 3rd and longs way more than he should be. And it's just head scratching. Some of the plays, you watch this is not to take away anything from the Dolphins, right? Like 70 points is ridiculous. But the first drive of the game, Tyreek Hill has a huge touchdown and he's wide open with nobody 25 yards from him. And it's like, how does that guy get so open? I know it's his speed. I know it's because he is unlike any player in the NFL. I can't remember a time today when there was just a Bills receiver who was just wide open down the field or even had 5 or 6 yards of separation. I'm sure there's a couple plays where it happened, but it feels like they're working so hard for every yard that they get, and Josh has to still make these crazy plays. Nothing seems super easy for them. Now, the good news is you have Josh Allen. So he can make those plays, but eventually there's going to be a day when he doesn't. And that's what's a little bit concerning.
He had, that was a great throw to Gabe Davis. That was a great first down call. They took a shot, Gabe Davis touchdown. He had another great throw to Davis that Davis didn't get his foot down in the end zone. Could have been another touchdown. Here's what I liked about Josh's game. He was smart running the ball. He was smart when he took off, when he decided to. Three carries, 46 yards, got down twice and in the end zone once. That's a perfect day running the ball for Josh Allen. That's the hat trick. You have 3 carries, 1 goes into the end zone, and 2 you slide so you don't get hit. And he had 46 yards rushing. That was a nice day for him running the ball.
You know what another observation I have about the offenses right now? And what? I like that they're using more of the weapons, but I feel like they're forcing it a little bit. They're forcing plays to Deontay Hardy that don't need to be forced. You know, they're trying these jet sweeps and they're trying these screen passes that are just not working. So it's almost like they're just trying to keep doing it to make eventually one of them happen. But you know what your bread and butter is. Your bread and butter is Stephon Diggs. Your bread and butter is Gabe Davis down the field. And sure, I'm all for like diversifying your offense and trying to do these different things. But you know it's not working. You know the draw plays on 2nd and 10 are not working to James Cook, so don't do them. You know the screen passes are not working to Deontay Hardy. You know that, these certain things that you're doing just aren't hitting. And it's weird because, when they did the first 2 possessions of the draw plays on 2nd and long, on the 3rd one, I was sitting next to Mike Catalana and John Scott, and I look over and I go, this is the play action where they take a deep shot. I was like, those were set up plays, and they're going to take a shot here. Nope. They turned around and handed it off again. And I'm like, am I taking crazy pills here? I just don't get it.
No. And you're right. I didn't love those calls either. But after a while, maybe something hits, right? You try it. Maybe you go to the well a little too often. I mean, James Cook wound up with another 98 yards, right? 90, I think it was 98 was what he had totally. Another 6 yards to carry. I hated the 4th down call, 4th and
Awful.
1, empty.
Awful.
Just go forward. Just hand it off. A slant. I hated that call. But listen, they still scored 30 points on offense. And I think, Matt, maybe the one biggest thing that we haven't even touched on yet, holy cow, did the offensive line play well to give Josh Allen protection against that defensive front? I mean, 0 sacks given up, one official quarterback pressure the entire game. And you're facing Montez Sweat, Chase Young, Deron Payne, and Jonathan Allen. Between the 4 of them, 8 total tackles, no sacks, 1 quarterback pressure.
So you stack that game, which was the best game they've played so far this season, with the game last week where they really handled Max Crosby well, and you go, okay, maybe they got something here. Maybe Spencer Brown is better than we were giving him credit for, and maybe the injury did linger a lot longer than we thought. Maybe Osiris Torrance is a guy, right? Like I haven't noticed Osiris Torrance a ton the first couple weeks just watching the games, which is a really good sign for a rookie offensive lineman. Connor McGovern comes in. It doesn't feel like that side is getting taken advantage of. Deion Dawkins had a season last year where he's probably capable of more, and so far it looks like he's given them more. So yeah, that's a really good sign for the Bills. And to your point, like James Cook almost has 100 yards, 34 of it come in garbage time at the end of the game. So I don't think that James Cook was overly effective in this game, but whatever. Like like you said, we're nitpicking. They scored 37 points. So it's hard to like find things that were really, really wrong with this game. But yeah, the line has been awesome. Diggs is awesome, but still not a ton of Kincaid, which surprised me. I thought this would be a big Kincaid game. Not a ton of Knox. I don't know if much of that is to do with the injury and, just them kind of easing him back into it a little bit. But I don't think that's the case.
He had a nice first down gain early in the game, like on the when they rolled out. So I don't think an injury necessarily was playing a role in that. I think they just, for some reason, it just didn't work that way. They tried Dalton Kincaid in the first play of the game. He actually lost a couple of yards on that first play, one of those first downs. By the way, I also want to throw in, we always talk about like Ken Dorsey and play calling. Give Ken Dorsey credit for the offensive line and what they're doing too. That's scheme. You got to have a scheme to go against those guys. That's Ken Dorsey and that's Aaron Cromer deserve just as much credit as the guys who are blocking because they're coming up with a scheme to be able to help them do that, to put them in good position. So I think it's been 2 really good game plans 2 weeks in a row. One against Max Crosby, one against, the front 4 that they had to face against the Washington Commanders. All right, let's take a look around the league, especially ahead to what the Miami Dolphins did, because holy cow. Matt, I've never seen anything like it. 70 points scored by the Miami Dolphins.
It's nuts.
700 yards was it? I have to go back and look now. I'm going to look at this. They set an NFL record. I had heard this and I haven't looked, so I'm going to look right now. Total yards for the Miami Dolphins. You ready for this number? 726.
They're good. They're really good, and it makes you wonder. I know what the line is, at least early on. I'm sure that it's going to get moved a ton. But what would you say? Bills 2.5.
I was gonna say Bills 2. Okay. I would think the Bills still would be favored. They are playing at home, but that's basically saying that on a neutral field, Miami would probably be favored by half point. But these are even teams. This is a Miami Dolphins offense that is setting records, scoring at an unbelievable clip against the Bills defense that has allowed 13 points over the last 2 weeks. And even then 16 points the first. So 29 points over 3 weeks. I mean, this is going to be interesting next week.
Well, and also Miami put up 70 points today, and they did it without Jalen Waddle, who missed the game because he was in concussion protocol. So think about that. They did it without a really, really, really great wide receiver. Tyreek Hill, of course, is their bread and butter, but Jalen Waddle is no slouch there. Yeah, it's unbelievable. And also, how ridiculous do the Broncos look right now? Sean Payton coming out before the season and is like, that's the worst coaching job ever from Nate Hackett or Nathaniel Hackett or whatever. And now they're 0-3 and they just had a 70 burger hung on them. That's
70.
Ridiculous. That's insane. So, Tua's in the MVP conversation now. And I know some Bills fans will hate that, but he's the front runner at this point. He deserves to be. He's playing unbelievable football. The biggest question with Tua going into the season was not that if he's a good player, is he going to stay healthy? It's only 3 weeks. Right. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen with any player. I will say, literally a week ago, they scored 24 points against the Patriots. So 70 is going to make the conversation ridiculous this week. There are going to be people saying, is this the best offense ever? No, let's give it time. But they're very, very good, and they're clearly very explosive. And that's, for the Bills, a big problem. The division is very, very tough because of the Miami Dolphins now.
It'll be a really interesting week leading up to that. There were some other really interesting games. The Baltimore Ravens had 7 starters out. They hung tough, but they lost. The Indianapolis Colts, a big upset. The Colts go to Baltimore, and the Colts win 2-1. They moved to 2-1, and the Ravens dropped to 2-1 in overtime, 22-19. And then the Patriots, they take care of business at the Jets, 15-10. They go to 1-2 on the year. I
didn't even see the score for that game.
15-10. Yeah, 15-10. Classic Patriots Jets right now. And then another big upset. And you could touch on whichever one of these games I just brought up, but Texans go to Jacksonville 37-17. What is wrong with the Jacksonville Jaguars offense?
I don't know. It's crazy because I remember talking in the summer about the London game and circling that game as and it still could be, right? They could wake up at any point, but I did not like that matchup for the Bills. I thought the Jags could potentially be a contender for the 1 seed in the AFC because of the division that they play in. And now they just do not look like they've got it. I mean, they're 1-2. Last week, their offense did nothing against the Chiefs. I mean, their only win of the season is, do you know who they beat? It's the Colts. So they beat the Colts in Anthony Richardson's first NFL game. So it's like, do you really deserve any credit for that? And then you lose 2 games in a row. Who knows? They could bounce back. I mean, they were only 1 game behind the Bills, right? So we can't dunk on them too much, but I was expecting way more from them. And also it's not a direct, impact on the Bills, but how about the Cowboys losing to the Cardinals?
It's a direct impact on me. They were in I'm in a couple of loser pools, survivor pools. And in one particular pool, I took the Cardinals to be my loser for the week. So I'm out because they won.
Wow. Well, I actually forgot to submit my loser pool pick. So I have to pick a team on Monday Night Football. So I have to pick between, what is it this week? I have to pick between the Bucks, Eagles, Bengals, and Rams. So I think I'm going to pick the Bucks.
Are you in? Now we do one with a media one with Paul Hamilton. Are you in that one?
That's the one. Yeah.
I
always
that
forget
one,
to submit something. You legit pick a loser.
Right. And that one I took the Giants, so I'm good. But in another one I'm in, I took the Cardinals because I didn't submit it in time for the Giants. But either way, yes, you're right. So that's another one. But Matt, doesn't this go to show what we always talk about the first 3-4 weeks? You never know, right? Like the Giants were, oh my God, they're unbelievable. I mean, not the Giants, the Cowboys, they're unbelievable. They're Super Bowl favorites. Look at that defense. they lose to Arizona. Now I know Trayvon Diggs is out, and that's a shame for him, but they lost at Arizona, a team that people think are tanking.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how this league works. There's so many up and downs. You never know. Like you said, I love how you said it. Or actually, you know who I think said it was Mike Catalana from 13 Wham in Rochester. He told me that early in the season, the good teams don't know they're good yet, and the bad teams definitely don't know they're bad yet. And I think that that's really true when it talks about the first couple weeks of the season. Also, besides that, did you see the ending of the Vikings-Chargers game?
I did not. I know the Chargers won 28-24.
Okay. So how crazy is this? The Chargers are up 28-24 with a minute and a half left on their own 24-yard line, and they go for it on 4th and 1 and do not get it. Okay? So they turn the ball over to the Vikings, who now need to score a touchdown to win at their own like 23, 24-yard line. The Vikings go down into, I think, the 10, first and goal, second and goal.
I have it at the 6. They got to the 6.
They got to the 6, and the ball was tipped twice and intercepted. So the Chargers defense bailed Staley out of legitimately, I don't know if I would say fireable offense, but one that would have been criticized. So, I mean, I get it. You get a yard, you win the game. But doing it on your own 24-yard line and turning it over, like that's insane.
Did you see Herbert's numbers?
No, were they good?
40 for 47 for 405 yards and 3 touchdowns. And
they still almost lost.
Keenan Allen threw had one pass for 49 yards and a touchdown.
And he had 20 targets, 18 catches, and 215 yards.
I'm glad he's on one of my fantasy teams.
I can't. How did they almost lose? How is that even possible?
It's the Chargers. Those kinds of things happen. One final game before we wrap up, and then we can take a question or two real quick.
Yeah.
Chiefs just decimated the Bears. The Bears are awful. I don't know what to think about it. That means the Chiefs are back because the Bears are so bad.
Yeah. It's a little bit of both. I think the Chiefs are probably back. I think Travis Kelce was playing with a little more juice than maybe normal today with his girl up in the suite.
Yeah, she was there, right? Taylor Swift
was there. Yeah. So it's funny. My wife texted me a screenshot and was like, "Is this photoshopped?" Like she didn't think it was real because it was Taylor Swift at the game. And I was like, no, it's not photoshopped. It's real. So yeah, I think that was a combination of the Chiefs getting their groove back a little bit and the Bears just being an absolute tire fire. Makes you wonder, what do you think Tremaine Edmonds is thinking right now? You know, he probably looks at all the scores after the games. He sees what the Bills do. And he's probably just like, man, maybe I should have taken a couple million less and stuck around.
Maybe. I thought about that. I'm like, he's also probably thinking, I'm making 18 mil a year. I'm pretty good. And you know what? He's going to be playing for a while, and maybe they'll, be better. And it's something that they're trying to build right there. But the Bears do not look good. Justin Fields looks like he is definitely not it as far as a franchise quarterback and what they drafted him to be. And the whole week they had with the coaching and him calling him out and those kinds of things. But it's not looking good right now for Justin Fields. All right.
Couple questions.
Let's do that real quick. You got a couple things. You threw it out there.
Yeah, this one is from Phil. Can the Bills' offense be described as explosive anymore? And I think that it still can, but I think it's because of Josh Allen, not because of like consistent production that we have seen so far. I just think that as long as you have Josh Allen, you have the potential of going out and scoring 40 points on any given week. And not for anything, they've played tough defenses. They've played the Jets. The Raiders aren't a tough defense. I shouldn't have said that. The Jets are a tough defense, and the Commanders have the potential. Well, they have a really great defensive line. I thought they would be a tougher defense. So, it's not like they've played against a team that they should go out and just destroy. Well, and the Raiders was the one team that they did, and they scored 38 points. So I think they can still be called explosive.
Matt, the Bills still had 4 plays of 30 yards or more in this game. I think it goes unnoticed. They still can get down the field pretty quickly if they need to. They can be. Yes, I still think they're an explosive offense. They just aren't playing that style right now. I think that's more intentional than anything else. Thanks, Phil.
Okay, this one's from Lance, and it's just kind of like not a question, but an observation. And he just said, really interested in knowing how good Terrell Bernard can be. What an incredible start to the season. And I don't know what the ceiling is. I don't know what the floor is. I can't even really think of a player that I'd compare him to just because he's so different than what we've seen, at least here in Buffalo, the last few years.
It's way too high a praise. Doesn't he remind you a little bit of Matt Milano?
It's like the low hanging fruit that I don't want to take because He does.
That they're the same kind of style, right? They're just very instinctive.
Very
and they get there in a hurry.
Very rangy, quick, look like they're shot out of a cannon. Smaller guys for the position, athletes.
To me, that's what that is. And look, I still think he can struggle against bigger offensive linemen who get into him. But the difference is he doesn't let them. See, Tremaine Edmonds, that could happen sometimes, even though he's bigger, guys could get under his pads and stuff. And Tremaine, he didn't have the instincts to get around that sometimes. But Bernard, he seems like he doesn't let that happen because he's too instinctual to let that happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like when Dalton Kincaid gets drafted and everybody compares him to Travis Kelce, it's like, whoa, let's pump the brakes. And I know you're not doing that, but Matt Milano is the first player that certainly comes to mind because you're looking at him right next to the two of them. And it's like, wow, they do a lot of the same things. We'll see if he can kind of stack it with more good games. A lot of the other questions that we've already kind of answered.
And then it's all good. What time does your flight land?
My flight lands, I think, at 11:15, 11:30, sometime in that range.
We'll get you out of here. Do you have one more you want to get to?
Yeah, this is a fun one to end on. What's your airport beer or adult beverage of choice if you were going on a trip somewhere? What would you get to drink?
People know I'm not much of a beer drinker. It depends.
You like wine?
It is. Oh, no. I would say a Bloody Mary.
A Bloody Mary? Ooh, I don't like Bloody Marys. What's that wine you like? What's that one kind of wine you like? Malbec, yeah. I've never had that.
Oh, it's good. It's good wine, but I like a Bloody Mary. If I travel early in the morning, I'm getting a Bloody Mary when I get somewhere.
If I travel early in the morning, I'm getting a coffee with all of the caffeine in the world, and I feel
but they said alcohol. I would also get coffee, but if you're doing alcohol,
what time did you guys get? What time did you get home tonight? Like this is the biggest advantage of traveling on the team charter. What time were you back at your home?
Well, that's not a fair question. I had to go pick up my dog. So I'll say this. We landed. I went to pick up my dog at my mom's house, which is in Amherst. And I got there right at 8 p.m.
Wow. So legitimately home for the start of Sunday Night Football.
Yes. The Sunday Night Football game started when I was probably about a minute or two from pulling onto my street.
I have been doing the podcast here from some like kind of general area at Ronald Reagan Airport, and I'm watching all of these people. You don't see them on the screen, but in my peripheral, just kind of head down towards the gate area, and everybody is in a Bills hoodie, a Bills shirt, a Bills jersey. I would imagine everybody on this flight going back to Buffalo was at the game today. You know, you were on the sideline. I was in the press box.
Put them on the podcast and move your camera and go, hey, put them on the podcast. Sal, hey, we're on the podcast. What's going on? It's bad. You know what I mean?
There was an insane amount of Bills fans who made the trip. I remember when the Bills, when AJ Epinesa caught the interception and returned it for a touchdown. I think that was kind of like the final nail in the coffin for the Commanders fans, and they all left. But the stadium was still full because there were so many. I took a couple pictures because I couldn't believe it. I was like, it almost feels like I'm seeing things, but the stadium is still. I said at the beginning of the game, I was like, I don't think it's 50-50. But it's got to be close. And then after all the Commanders fans left, it might have been 50-50.
Oh, listen, if you do yourselves a favor, go to my Twitter at Sal Sports. Whenever the Bills win on the road and the fans are there, I always take a video of the crowd as I'm walking across down the sideline. Go check it out, Matt. It's pretty incredible. Bills Mafia out in full force. Matt's going to have all the coverage over on WKBW TV Channel 7. I'll have it at WGR Sports Radio 550, the Extra Point Show on Monday, the reaction show. Matt, I was thinking about this real quick to get you out of here. It's going to be hard not to talk about the Dolphins earlier than we should talk about the Dolphins this week. I want to enjoy this. I want to talk about it with the fans on my Monday reaction show, but I know it's coming. We're going to be turning our attention to the Dolphins very, very quickly. And as of right now, 74 degrees and sunny in Buffalo Sunday in Orchard Park.
I loved Joe DiBiase's tweet on this. He said the Bills just won 37-3, and I somehow feel worse about their chances at the AFC East, which is just so indicative of the 70 points that they put up. But yeah, absolutely. I think that the page turns a little bit quicker because they knew it. You know, they come up to the podium. Yep. Sean McDermott comes up to the podium, and he was like, we've got our work cut out for us. I just saw that Miami scored 70 points, so we got to get back to work. And it's like, okay, like I'm sure I got one other thing that I want to talk about very quickly. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm dragging on, but if I miss my flight, I miss my flight. This is not indicative. This is not indicative of Leslie Frazier. I do not want this to be a shot at Leslie Frazier. But is Sean just unbelievable at calling a defense? Because why does it feel like they are so much more dynamic now than they were with Leslie? I mean, they have not looked this good since 2019.
Sean McDermott has an incredible defensive mind. They're healthy. That helps.
That's true.
Terrell Bernard, for all the praise we've given him, the other thing he does, he allows Sean McDermott to have many more options at his disposal. That's a big deal, man.
Yeah. And they're doing it without Von Miller, who might be back sooner rather than later. So when you think about how good the pass rush has looked now, you get nine sacks without Von Miller. It's probably 10 or 11 if you got that guy on the field.
Matt, you have a very safe flight home, and we will talk to everybody later in the week as we get ready for Miami week. It is a thing, Miami week. Since I was a kid, it's called Miami week. We got to talk about that later in the week. Have a safe flight home, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Have a great week, everyone.
All right, for Matt Bove, I'm Sal Capaccio. It's always game day in Buffalo. Download the audio, iTunes, Spotify, WGR, Odyssey app, and of course on YouTube at Sal Sports on YouTube.